What's up? Welcome to CP Sports Talk Podcast with Christian Paolantonio. This is going to be the first episode of the podcast, and today we're just going to be introducing the podcast and talking about, I guess, what the podcast is going to kind of entail as we move forward into the UFL season and as we continue into the NFL offseason. My name is Christian Paolantonio. I cover the DC Defenders, the Washington Commanders, and I also cover the Orlando Storm, who are also part of the UFL. I'm here to just kind of recap and, preview and talk about all the kind of off-season moves and the moves during the season for the Commanders, for the Defenders, and everything in the district, really. I'm down to talk about the Wizards and the Caps, too. But right now, I just kind of want to focus on the football side. And, with spring football coming up with the Defenders, I think this is a good kind of time to start with a little over 2 weeks or about 2 weeks until kickoff starts in the UFL. I think that, with the Commanders, getting over the first stage of free agency, they just signed the two receivers yesterday, De'Ami Brown and Van Jefferson. And I just thought this was, a good time to kind of start the podcast. So I'm excited. I'm excited moving forward. I'm going to be covering some of the games for the Defenders, for the Storm down here. I'm right now located in Florida. So I'll be covering, the Storm games in Orlando, like I said. And, I'm just excited to get this podcast going. I'm excited to do some post-game stuff, some emergency pod stuff. It's been a long time coming. I've been really, looking forward to starting something like this. I've been nervous. It's going to be a journey. I'm sure this is going to be a rough start. It's going to be a bit of a rough draft. But, I'm excited to get something out there for you guys to listen to. A little bit about myself. I've been writing for and covering the DC Defenders for Pro Football Newsroom, or UFL Newsroom, as you guys might know them, for the past about, 5 or 6 years, since 2020, since the XFL was starting up and, got shut down by COVID. So I've been covering them for a while, and I'm excited for a team to be back in Florida as I've, moved on from college, graduated from there, back down in Florida now. And I think that spring football needs to be in Florida somewhat, whether it's in Orlando or Tampa. I think having it this year back in Orlando with Mike Rapoli and a good group backing them, I think this is going to be a good spot for them. So I'm excited. Like I said, I'm also a writer for Hogs Haven covering the Commanders. And right now it's obviously the off season, but we put a lot of stuff out in the socials about the Commanders and, what's been going on with the off season. I'm a big fan of what they've been doing. Free agency's been going really well for Peters and the crew. It's a slow start, but, getting some of the guys that they've gotten on the younger side and swaying away from the, the Bobby Wagner and the Zach Ertz, even though they provided a lot when they were here, I think it's, good to move towards that younger side and, get those guys in there. So I'm excited moving forward for those guys, for the younger crew, moving in Leo Chenal, bringing Tim Settle back, a lot of guys I'm just excited for in free agency that they got. So, yeah, so just moving forward, this is not going to be a long episode. I just kind of wanted to introduce everything. Spring football is something I've been really passionate about, like I said, for the last, 5 or 6 years. Moving into a big 2026 season. The Defenders are coming off a huge championship campaign where they, finally got that championship ring. Shannon Harris took over as the interim head coach beginning of the year for Reggie Barlow as he left for, NCAA football, Tennessee State, I believe, if I remember correctly. And Harris just took the opportunity and really just ran with it. And now his Defenders, a large majority of the roster coming back this year. I think that they've got a good crew coming back, and I think, the Defenders should be a favorite and have a good chance to repeat with the chemistry and the crew. And, we've seen a lot of good social media interaction coming out from each of the teams. And the Defenders just seem like they're picking up where they left off right now in camp. Joint practices have been going on. They just wrapped one up with the Louisville Kings. Trying to get some insight from that since we're not there on location. There's a couple guys there, but it seems like the Defenders had another good day. 2 weeks from kickoff, like we said, against the Battlehawks on the road at the Dome. It's going to be a tough environment. We're going to have a pregame pod for that one for sure. I also plan on releasing the pod when we come out with one for the cuts, which are coming out on March 19th. I'll try to cover the Defenders and Storm cuts for that one. Um, you know, I think that trying to get down to 50 men isn't too tough. They've got about 60, 65 guys on each squad right now, so they've got about 10 to 15 cuts to make. So I think that the Defenders will be, the team's going to be looking very similar to last year, which isn't a bad thing at all, obviously, coming off a championship year. But the receiver room is loaded. They just got Braylon Sanders back, traded off Gottlieb Iedzi. I think that's how you say his name. Maryland tackle. Had a good chance of making the team, to be honest with you, but I guess DC thought they needed more at that receiver position. Sanders was a huge contributor in 2025, and he was consistent. He was there when they needed him, and he's coming back alongside Ty Scott, Montreal Washington, Cornell Powell, just a loaded receivers group. Kiki Kuti. So this will be an exciting year for that group. Teamu obviously back at QB, the running back group led by Abram Smith, Deion Jackson. I think Xavier Halliday is his name. Excuse me if I'm wrong on that one. The third running back, and he's been looking good in camp too. We've seen a couple clips of him. And I think the Defenders are set up well, man. I think that, continuity is a big thing when it comes to spring football. It's not common, but, I think it's smart to have a team that's familiar with each other in such a tough landscape where guys are just, meet each other, for the first time a month before the season begins. These guys have known each other throughout the off season. They still chat with each other. I think this is just a smart plan for the Defenders, and I see them making the playoffs again this year, and just being a dangerous squad. So as for the Storm, Anthony Becht obviously came from St. Louis, and he's back in the Orlando area. He stays in the Florida area, so I'm sure he's happy to be back in that Florida area for sure. They've got a really good squad. They've got Dorian Thompson-Robinson at UCLA. He's a tough quarterback. Receiver, they got KJ Hamler, Penn State product. They got Chris Rowland from DC, who was just an all-purpose beast last year, and he just exploded, onto the scene. It was dangerous every single game, it seemed like. Kickoff return, short yardage, long balls. Teamu had a connection. I was really surprised to not see the Defenders hold on to him. So I'm excited to see what Rowland does in Orlando. I expect ECR to win that quarterback competition between him and Plummer. And I'm forgetting the QB3 right now for some reason. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. For the Storm, Bachmeier, of course. Yeah, the BYU's brother, BYU quarterback's brother, Bear's brother. So, yeah, Bachmeier's the third quarterback. I expect him to stick to that QB3 position. I think Plummer will be the QB2, but DTR, I think he'll be an exciting quarterback prospect in this league. They've got Jayshon Corbin, who just returned to the team again also, and Corbin's XFL's leading rusher, or UFL's leading rusher this past season. They got Elijah Dotson, Trey Stewart, who are two guys that are going to be exciting additions to spring football, I believe. Marquez Stevenson also on the offensive side. And then you move to the defensive side for Orlando. They got Lamar Jackson, the cornerback, and he's going to be a good piece. He spent time with a few different teams in the NFL. They've got Alan George, spent time with the Commanders. Chris Claybrooks, former Jag. So they've got a lot of guys that have experience. Also in the spring football scene, like Jacob Sykes, Isaiah Buggs is down there. Tavante Beckett is going to be a huge piece of this defense. So the Storm are set up well. I think Anthony Becht and crew did a good job with pulling pieces from the San Antonio squad and also bringing some pieces from St. Louis and just some different spring football and out of spring football pieces that I think will mesh well here. So Mark Gilbert's and also another piece. So they're deep at that DB position. I'm excited to see what they do there. And yeah, just moving forward. I don't want to keep this episode too long, but I think that the idea of this podcast is going to be to cover a lot of the DC sports. Like I said, Commanders, Defenders. The episodes will be titled how they will to, what we're going to be talking about each episode. But it's mainly going to be focused on the UFL moving forward for this foreseeable future. Defenders, post-game pods. We're going to talk about the Storm as well. Commanders, obviously, we're going to be pulling up some emergency pods if we need to. But I'm excited just to, get this thing going and get to know a little bit of the community that follows me a little bit and hopefully connect with a few of you guys. So please follow, keep following, subscribe, do what you guys got to do to see the next episode. I'm excited to have you guys follow along on this journey with me. I'm a young guy. I'm 25 years old, so if you guys want to share your story with me, I'm more than happy to chat. So yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks guys for listening. And if you guys have any questions or want to reach out, don't hesitate. Looking forward to it. See ya.